I was born 15 years after the Holocaust. 15 years after Christian countries eviscerated and destroyed European Jewry. When I was a kid, seeing people with numbers on their arm was ubiquitous. That's the world I grew up in Brooklyn. And I knew that the church was the enemy of the Jewish people. I had no idea why they hated us so much, but I knew they did. For those of you who didn't grow up in Brooklyn in the 60s and 70s, so people don't even understand this, but there was no such thing of even walking past a Christian kid and someone would say good morning. You always cross the street to the other side. I didn't know why they hated me. They told me I killed Jesus, and I thought they were insane. I must have been like 17 years old, and when I encountered Jews for Jesus missionaries in New York in Midtown Manhattan, I was so shocked, it blew my mind away, that here these missionaries were trying to destroy those who survived Hitler's ovens. I just thought it's like a bomb went off inside of me. And I began to argue with them, but it wasn't very effective. I was speaking to them, but I didn't really know much about what they believed, and it was just a conversation going nowhere very quickly. But it so deeply offended me, it shocked me to my core that people were trying to convert Jews to destroy us. Now I am sure what I am saying is not foreign to other Jewish people who have encountered these missionaries in the centers of America's largest cities or in Europe or in Israel. I visited Israel for the first time the following spring. My uncle lived in the Jewish quarter of the Old City. He happened to have a Christian Bible that was given to him as a gift from a minister, and I began to read it, and I was shocked by it. It was, in essence, much worse than I ever had imagined. It was virulently anti-Semitic. I knew it wasn't good. I didn't know it was a nightmare. I didn't realize how the Jews were characterized in such demonic ways. Is there a religion that spilt more blood, that took the lives of more innocent people than the church? The bloodiest religious war in human history, a war that probably triggered all the criticism of Christianity, the 30-Year War, 1618 to 1648, 8 million people dead. No doubt Christianity is the author of the Holocaust. Without Christianity, the Shoah, the destruction of European Jewry during World War II would have not been possible, because it would have not been possible for the Germans to have sold the notion that Jews were Untermenschen, subhuman, without the Christian Bible. You know, we've been on here, Bob, so many times together, and we often talk about contradictory texts in the Christian Bible, where the New Testament doesn't even agree with itself. But there is something very consistent in the Christian Bible, and that is it's notoriously anti-Semitic. Its portrayal and caricature, the way it characterizes the Jews, just most people, thank goodness, don't read the Christian Bible, because if they did, they would be, God only knows what would have happened to us. So the Christian Bible very consistently has a villain, and that's the Jews. The character development is very well done. The Jews at every stage are just plotting to destroy Christ. You Christians watching us now want to talk about consistency. All the Gospels consistently characterize the Jews as completely responsible for Jesus' death, and Pontius Pilate is nothing more than a lackey. There is just a difference of temperature. John is amped up most, the last gospel. Mark is, it's still a nightmare. But if John, Luke, and Matthew had never been written, it wouldn't be that bad. It's bad, but not, they're all bad. And people might think watching us that you who are not a Christian, I am not a Christian, maybe we're like mischaracterizing this, or we're exaggerating this, or I'm making this stuff up, or you're overstating it because we don't have a flattering view of the Christian religion. Everything that we've said to this point is the consensus. People studying, Hitler, I don't know exactly what level of Christian he was, but read Mein Kampf. I had to read it a few times to write my books. It's a coherent book, and Jesus is spoken of very positively. There's nothing, this is not revolutionary stuff, nothing we're saying here. And we can even take something, we talked about the infancy narrative, that's mainstream, what I said. The passion narrative is a nightmare. You can even take a story as benign as John chapter 9, a story of Jesus healing a man blind from birth. If I stood here and read it to you, pick your translation, the takeaway is not that Jesus healed the man. The takeaway is, look at these sick Jews who are just persecuting this man, trying to find out who healed him. He's thrown out of the synagogue. I mean, that's John 9. That's not John 19. Yeah. This is not, you know what I'm talking about. And I encourage, if you think that Bob or I are, maybe we're just anti-Christian. No, just read it for yourself. The takeaway in John 9 is a story about how evil the Jews are and how they sought to conspire against Christ for just healing a fellow born blind. And that's and everywhere in the New Testament, that's the story. It's in Paul. It's the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus is excoriating the Jews in the Sermon on the Mount. He is criticizing Gentiles, but look at the difference. The criticism of the Jew is much more visceral. It really is all over the place.